Good afternoon or evening, everyone. This is Shelby Williams Long, Ed.S, the twice exceptional mom, and I'm so excited today to be here with Miss Shecondria Duncan. She is the founder and operator of Neurostars Phonics here in Macon, Georgia, and today she's going to talk to us about Orton-Gillingham and its benefits for children and also how she got into it and just a little bit about her background. She actually started off as a psychologist and her heart is just so dedicated to children that she decided to move more into instruction as well. So we're going to listen to Miss Shecondria Duncan again, the founder and operator of Neurostars Phonics here in Macon, and she's going to talk to us about. Or first, she's going to explain what Orton-Gillingham is, and then talk to us about how she got into it and how she uses Orton-Gillingham to help students learn how to become better readers.
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be doing this work with children that are neurodivergent. What I absolutely love about Orton-Gillingham for me and my personal story with my own child is that it gave us a space where he just became a confident reader. And it created a system for him where he never had to guess what was going to happen. And it kind of made reading, because my kid is not the most motivated
Passionate
reader.
reader.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not. And so it gave him that, those spaces where he felt more motivated. But basically, Orton-Gillingham is based off the science of reading, which is a body of research where scientists have studied how the brain, learns how to read. Um, and it's so Orton-Gillingham is more of a methodology that we use to teach reading. It's a systematic, it teaches phonics explicitly. So we're learning each letter sound explicitly and the multiple ways that you can spell, one letter sound.
And it's
Um,
got a multi-sensory approach to
it's
it as well, and
um,
very systemic in like how things are introduced, correct?
it does, and that's the fun part for me. Coming up with different multisensory ways that that is fun for the kids to do. We have traditional ways where we use our dictation hand to tap our sounds and things like that. But I also like to pull in other things that kids just like Play-Doh, shaving cream, anything that's multisensory. So it's basically a play on sight, sound, and touch in storing that information in the brain. And I found that it's it's designed to work well with children with dyslexia. Through my personal experience, I've just learned that it also works really, really well for children with autism as well, particularly my son. So while it is most probably noted for children with dyslexia, it also works very well for children with autism because it gives them what most autistic children love, which is situations that are predictable. Um, that systematic functionality of it, they know what to expect. Those routines, the routines, you may be learning a new concept, but the routine week by week is the exact same in how that concept is taught.
So
And
like
so they
it's
know what,
reinforcing what they've already learned and just kind of like bringing it back, bringing it back. So it's almost like a constant spiral review, but you're
yeah,
adding in new parts as you go.
right,
I would love to also explain to people who maybe don't have an educational background like us, like when you're saying the dictation here, you're talking about like when they're tapping out the words for the phonemes to like sound
right,
out the word like k, at, to like doing
right.
things like that. That's what you mean. So she's saying so you're saying you use different things to help them like feel around as they're going through the
Hmm.
sounds to kind of build those pathways in the brain
Right.
to help them start reading. I know you said like you feel like it works really well with children who have autism. I know in some I've had some training in Orton Gilliam. I'm not a guru like you, but I know that I learned that there are a lot of they call them comorbidities, but people have like similar issues. Like there are a lot of kids who have dyslexia who are also autistic
Yes,
or may have dyslexia who also have ADHD. There's some that may have dyslexia, autism, ADHD, and some other
absolutely.
things going on all together. And so it's really great that there's a way that you can break into, I guess, the psyche a little bit and make it a little bit easier for them to learn how to read. So tell us a little bit more about that, or do you want us to tell us more about Orton Gilliam first and some of the activities you do, or do you want to tell us your story first? Because I kind of want to hear a little bit about that.
I'll tell you my story first, and then we can dive into that. So my story began with I have two children. One is an adult now, and I have a 13-year-old who is autistic. So with my older child, he was just a typical student, nothing going on. He had probably the most traditional school experience, and as a parent, that's how I thought life would be. And then 10 years later, I had my second son and discovered later on, maybe around when he was 3. And honestly, I had worked with children with autism prior to having my second son. So I started to notice where, something was a little bit different. Um, Not a panic, but something was a little bit different. And so he was diagnosed with autism, 3.5, something like that. And I think, like most parents, it was devastating because I
You
didn't
don't
know
know
what
what
life.
that means
Yeah, I
and
didn't
what
know what
that
it
is
meant.
going to look like for the present or the future.
Right, had no idea. But I knew that I would, be as supportive of a parent as I knew how to be. And so it started out kind of, just regular. But as he aged, maybe like 4 or 5, his autism, well, I'm not gonna say his autism. I'm gonna say, because you never meet two kids that are autistic at the
Right.
same. But for him, when he felt overwhelmed, overstimulated, that showed up as aggression. Um, and by that time, he was probably in pre-K. He started pre-K 3, but he was probably in pre-K 4 at that time. And as intelligence has never been an issue for him.
Hmm.
He learns fast. His issue was always being overstimulated, overwhelmed, and that turned into aggression.
May I ask
Yeah.
a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Was it simply just being overstimulated, or was there also like the frustration with the communication piece at all? Because I know we talked about they're all different, but my experience with my child is like sometimes to me, I feel like he starts getting to his frustration level when he's trying to communicate and share something and he can't get it out, or it seems like people aren't getting, to his need.
I would have to say absolutely. Thinking back on it, looking back at it, it was definitely the communication piece. Him wanting to, communicate whatever it was that he needed, and not being able to do that. And for us at home, we quickly learned what his communication or what he was trying to communicate. So the
Right.
aggression wasn't as present at home because we kind of, learned how to
You knew
manage
him pretty well.
that
Yeah.
pretty well. But when he went to school, you know, there were people who wanted to know, and there were people who, you know,
Were not
didn't know or
interested
were
or
not
didn't know
interested.
how to get or
Yeah,
or didn't really realize that it was a communication piece
right,
too.
right.
Because I do think some people are dismissive when they start seeing like those signs of overstimulation, like they are getting frustrated, they are getting aggressive. And I think a lot of times they treat them like a what's called a neurotypical child. They think it's just a behavioral issue, but it really is something deeper that's actually going
Yeah.
on.
And so I think that's what happened with him a lot. And, he was just sitting in spaces where, he was misunderstood, or what was happening that was causing that moment was misunderstood. And it kind of just escalated. So in other words, that pushed him out of the academic environment.
Yeah.
Had he stayed in that environment, there's no doubt, and intellectually he would have been, just like any other kid in that space where it was the learning was happening. But for
Right.
him, the his behavior pushed him out of the classroom a
Right.
lot, a lot, and to the point where he was probably more in another room or in the hallways or somewhere else rather than
Hmm.
in class. So ultimately, it was it was as difficult as it was for me, because I, had my own idea what my career would be.
Right.
I just ultimately decided to pull him out and teach him myself. And at that time, I had never taught elementary. I had worked in elementary as a PEC paraprofessional, but never been, an a classroom teacher at that time.
Because you say you have a experience teaching what is it, ELA high in the high school, so English language arts in
Hmm.
high school and middle
Hmm.
school science, and then so you
Yes.
had to go and kind of switch to elementary. And I don't think, for some people who are watching who maybe don't have an educational background, it's like doing elementary, middle, and high school is like literally speaking a different language.
It
I
is.
feel like if for me to go to middle school, it would be like if I only spoke French and then I went somewhere and everybody spoke Spanish, like I would be struggling for sure.
Right.
It's very
And
different
so, well,
expectations.
it's very different because high school kids, with ELA, I mean, you're not teaching them how to read. You're teaching them how to analyze what they're reading and things like that. So, to teach a child how to read is just something completely different. And I think, although I was not a traditional education major, I've sat in trainings, as an educator, and heard a lot of educators say, well, nobody really taught us how to teach kids how to read.
Hmm.
And so that's something that's now coming along with the science of reading, understanding how the brain learns how to read. So, so I pulled them, and we worked on what I knew to do, but there was still something missing, and there was building up to a gap with his foundational literacy skills. So, I decided to go back down to elementary, um, and just make that sacrifice and get what I needed to get to help my kid, and was blessed to come across a county that I worked in that was using Orton-Gillingham. Their K through 2 program, phonics program, was Orton-Gillingham based. So I got trained in that program through that teaching experience, and decided to use it on my son at home, and it worked. And
I love seeing how your face lit up because I feel like everybody I've talked to about Orton-Gillingham, and it's just almost like I don't want to call it a magic wand, but it's just totally different than what you typically see in classroom instruction of reading, unless you do have a school district like the one you said that is using that regularly. And then to start seeing like that progress in those gains,
yes,
like makes a big difference because a lot
it's
of
a
people
light
are
bulb
seeing.
that you can. It's a light bulb, and you can see the light bulb when it turns on for each kid, and that is it. That's it's awesome to me. It
Mhm.
makes it to me when you do it right, and the kids use that multisensory piece. It clicks. It clicks, and they just get it. So, I figure, I feel like if it worked for my kid, it would work for all kids with special needs. And so I wanted to do something that would give back to that space. Wanted to reach back and help parents that I knew would feel as lost as I felt, or feeling as
Mhm.
lost as I felt when I was on that journey early on with my kid, and I didn't know what to do, and I was an educator. So wanted to start this organization to create that space where we understand that kids with special needs require special situations and special
Instruction.
people and special instruction and patience, and compassion and all those things. And at Neurostars, our focus is not being on a pace. It may take you a couple of weeks to get a concept. That's okay. We just want you to get it. We want to focus on getting your emotions regulated, creating a safe space, a soft space, if that makes sense at all. And so that you can get what you need to get emotionally, and then get what you need to get academically, all in one space.
Right. I think I love hearing you talk about it and seeing how it works. Do you what are some things that you try with your clients that come in? Like let's say they if somebody came to you with a child and they absolutely weren't reading, or for example, even recognizing letters, like where would you start with a child like that?
So the first thing that we do is we do a literacy assessment to see, where those gaps exist with those children. And then we place them on an individualized learning plan from
Hmm.
that point. We keep our kids in small groups, so no more than 5 or 6, and we have time where they're all working on one thing, but they individually have their own plan. So if you have, we've
Hmm.
had kids who maybe spent a year in kindergarten or first grade, and they didn't know all their letter sounds.
Hmm.
And that was revealed in that assessment piece. And we are starting them at the very beginning of our sequence with teaching, the letter sounds that they need. And sometimes, it could be the beginning of the kindergarten sequence. And if the
Right.
parents are okay with that, we want to help them recover that year. If
Learning
they
loss.
that's what we love to do. And we actually had a kid who she was second grade, you know, technically in second grade at her school, but she lost a lot of her, she didn't get what she needed to get in first grade. And so this year we were able to, help her recover that information. And she's now moving on to third grade, and she has, picked up those skills that she needed from first grade,
Hmm.
because you and I both know as educators, in third grade is no longer learning how to
Learning to
read.
read
It's
is
reading
reading
to
to
learn.
learn.
Yeah.
And for
So,
people who are at home and aren't exactly sure, we're saying it's not just going into recognizing letters and sounds. Once they get in third grade, they expect you to take a text and do what we call a cold read, look at it, read it, and then extrapolate information from it and make sure you're understanding what you've actually read. So it's not going to be the same level of intensity of like phonics and breaking in sounds in third grade as you would see in like kindergarten or first grade. Well, I know you talked to me a little bit about your background and how you started getting into doing Neurostars Phonics and working on Orton-Gillingham. What would you say to a family if they weren't sure whether Orton-Gillingham would work? Like, what would you say if they said, "Oh, well, why would this work instead of what's happening in the classroom?"
um, what I would probably say is, well, for me personally, I always want to know what that parent's goal is for their child. What is your goal? What is your reading goal for your child? And from that answer, it would lead me into what I want to tell them about Orton-Gillingham. What I love to tell them is, this is not something, because a lot of times we hear about things and we do things and we speak from things that we heard about, you know. And so for me, it's always important to say, this is not just something that I heard about. This is something that I've actually done with my own child. And so from my own personal experience, I know that it works. That's always my starting point. And in my experience, parents really, they appreciate the fact that I'm, doing the work, but also have benefited from it, in that way where I can actually give you my real experience and where we started from with my son and where we are now. And so I would always start by saying, this is a lived experience. This is
Yes.
real. This is a real thing for me. So um, I will give your child everything that I've given my own son, because it means a lot to me to be able to go back and pick up a parent who's just feeling lost. Like, I don't know what to do.
What are some of the reactions you get from children who come to you because they obviously have had one type of experience in a classroom,
Mhm.
particularly if they're in a general education classroom? What is their reaction when you start pulling out different things? Like, tell us some of the stuff you pull out for the multisensory experience of while they're reading and how the kids react when you pull these items out.
Well, most kids fall in love with the sand. They fall in love with the sand trays for sure, because that's just, what the kids love to, play in the sand and draw their letters in the sand and practice their letters in the sand. So that's their favorite thing. But honestly, the opposite side of that, what I found is that with kids who have spent time in the traditional classrooms that don't teach reading in a structured literacy way, um, they actually give me a lot of pushback in the beginning.
Hmm.
It's
Really?
yeah, I have to kind of retrain them, you know, in how we teach reading here. It's difficult for them to understand the importance of using those multisensory pieces,
Hmm.
particularly the dictation hand,
Because
they
the whole point is to build like neural pathways, right?
yeah,
To connect it and build, those connections in the brain. So then it
it
starts
is.
becoming a little bit more automatic.
Right. And so what I have to tell a lot of them feel like it's cheating. I'm like, no, it's not cheating. It's
Why
a
do they feel
tool.
like it's cheating? And
I,
I've
I,
got,
I
I know you were at your location. Can you show us? Could you show us what you're talking about with the sand? I know it might be
oh,
kind
the
of hard with
sand.
like the background blurred. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna see if I can pick up a sand tray. I don't have one near me, but what I do have right here is and I have my whiteboard. I don't know if you can see this, but it's a whiteboard
Uh-huh.
that we
Hmm.
use in our 3-part drill. Um, but on the back of it, I
You're gonna
have the
have to put it up a
dictation
little bit closer. Okay, put it a little
hand.
bit closer. It's blurring because you got your background blurred.
Yeah.
So, but I saw there it goes. I can see it, the hand.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this, they all start with this hand because I want them to understand they're using their fingers to tap those individual sounds to, segment those sounds. So they all start here, even if I find other, fun ways for them to tap that multisensory way. But they start here, and this is what they feel like is cheating. Because I think naturally they learn to do it in their head. And so when
Mm.
they get to use this, they feel like it's cheating, and I have to explain to them, it's just a tool.
It's
It's a
a
tool that we're
tool, right,
using.
in your
Yeah.
toolbox.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm helping you build a toolbox of things that you can use, and we're not going to guess. We don't have to guess any of this. We can just tap these sounds, and once they actually start using it and they trust, I build that trust with them just as a teacher. That's always
Mm-hmm.
important too. But once they trust it and themselves, and they spend less time decoding words.
Yes. And just to explain again, like to the people who are non-educators who are listening. So when we're speaking about decoding words, we're talking about taking a word and breaking it apart to its individual sounds to figure out how the word is pronounced. And what happens is some of the kids, they use so much brain power just trying to figure out the word to sound it out and say it correctly that yes, they may get to the point where they've said the word, but then they kind of lost the meaning in the sentence or the passage that is in. And so then you have a comprehension issue that's associated with it. So the more that the less time they spend decoding, the more fluent they can be and they read, more smoothly. Then once they're reading more smoothly, the easier it is for them to comprehend and understand what's actually being read. I'm sorry, my dog is on camera. She needed to be
Okay.
picked up very badly.
I graduate from that hand. After
They
they
got to
graduate,
graduate from the
they got
hand.
to graduate from there
So
when they
is there
finish.
like, okay, so what is your progression in the sensory tools they get to use? Like where are we starting and where are we going?
Right. So they like I said, they start with a dictation hand, and once they're comfortable with that and they know how to use it, because some of them will blend on the hand. I want to make sure that they understand we're not blending there. We're actually doing, segmented sound. So once they get that piece of it, where they are using one finger at a time, then I will
Mm-hmm.
allow them to use other little fun things like, these little bubbles that they'll,
Poppers. Uh-huh.
yeah, we'll use these poppers. And then some of them really like to use these little cubes. And I just put
Cubes.
and it's actually not normally that way. It's
Do
normally
you
three.
relate the cubes at all to those Elkin boxes? Do you ever do that?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We do that. But the most of them like this and this, of course.
Mhm.
And then some of them like the Play-Doh. But once they learn how to successfully use that hand, it's really up to them to, I have some different choices, and this is like a choice option. What is more fun for you? What is going to keep you engaged? Um, and I also like to, like, I have a student right now, and he's just not feeling it. He's not
Yeah.
feeling it at
Is he
all.
older or is he younger?
He's 7. He's
Okay. So
7.
like first grade or second grade?
He's second grade. He's second grade, and he's actually he's been homeschooled his whole life. He's never been in public school, and as we do work with homeschool kids as well. But I don't know what it is for him, and he's ADHD, dyslexic, maybe a little bit of autism, I'm not sure, but he's just pushing back on it. So I'm almost at the point with him where he's not. he has not graduated from our hand, but
Yeah,
I don't want to lose his focus. I don't want to lose
right.
this.
You want him to still be willing to do something for you.
Right. I want him to,
Right.
yeah. So I'm almost, so for me, it just depends on, I'm reading the child, what's going to help this kid. Um, do I stick to what we traditionally do?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you got to know when to push the gas and let off the gas, what's going to work for this
Yes,
kid.
yes. Mm-hmm. Because
So,
like you said, you don't want to lose them. You want them to still try to be engaged with you.
right, right. Does it mean more to me to force you to do this because I know I want you to get it this way? Or do I feel like if I let you do something more fun, you're going to be mature enough to still get what you need, you know?
Right.
And so it just depends on the child. I always try to get to know the kids individually. And anybody that comes and work with us, that's the priority for me is to build relationship with these children first.
Mm-hmm.
Children will do a lot more with you and for you if you have that relationship piece. I've always been like that as a teacher, and it's the same here.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other goodies for us to see? Were you able to grab some of the
I did
sand?
grab a sand tray. So
Okay.
and so into I can't flip it over because it'll pour out, but
Pour out.
inside of here
Yeah.
is our sand tray, and we use this. This is actually really, really cool to use with those younger learners. When they're when we're doing that drill, that 3-part drill. And the 3-part drill is this, I'll explain it because I know, we know, but the others may not know. So it is what we use to review the concepts that we've already taught. So we teach a new concept every week. And, once that concept is taught and mastered, because our goal here is mastery, we're dealing with small
Right.
groups. And, we can stay longer on a concept for mastery. They've mastered it, but we don't just throw that concept away. We push it back into that 3-part drill. So they may not be working on it in terms of their individual workspaces, but at the start of every session, we spend 10, 15 minutes going through that drill. And it's the first part of the drill is auditory. So we're showing our kids these cards. They have our letter sound cards. And there, I don't know if you can see it, but these are every card has a letter on it.
Try to see if you tilt it so I can see the letter that's going. Because it's the blur. I don't know. There it
Yes,
goes. I see a
here it is.
G.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
D. So the first part of the drill, the kids, we show them those cards and whatever the concepts the cards that are here, the concept that have been previously taught. So we're showing them the cards. They're, that first part of the drill, they're telling us the sound that that letter makes. Second part of the drill, we're telling them the sound and they're spelling it. How do we spell this sound? And then that's last part of the drill, they're blending those words together and reading words. So the purpose of that is the review piece. We're going back, keeping our what we've already taught, and they're getting review that every time they meet with us, so they don't forget it. They're still using it, they're still being exposed to it. But what they really love, as far as our multisensory tools, they love this sand and they love these little pop bubbles. They love those, and some of them like the Play-Doh, but it just depends. And we're trying to get I'm actually trying to get more and more creative with what we use for that
Do you
multi.
ever use that sensory, I guess isn't it like sensory sand, not the regular sand, but the one that like molds and like does all the things kind of like a
Kinetic
slime?
ones.
Yes, yes.
I have not tried that one yet. That may be something that we implement for next school year.
So if I were a parent, well, I am a parent, but okay, can I talk about my kid and what I would
Sure,
like to see him do?
absolutely.
Okay. So my son, he like autism, ADHD, all the things. So he can actually read, but it reads pretty well, but his fluency. So, like, what could Neurostars do to help, like, a child with someone like that, like with something like that, where they're reading, but it's more word by word, like the cat
Mhm.
went outside. Like, what would you do for a child like that?
Right. So again, we start with that assessment piece, and and obviously the parents own goals and desires for their child, and that's them telling us who their child is and what they need. So if we have a child come in and they know how to read, they just need to read more fluently. So then that is the focus of that child's literacy plan. When they come in, that is what they're working on. They're, working on fluency drills. They're, decodable readers, and they're spending that time with that decodable reader, reading it multiple times.
To try to
Um,
get faster every single
mhm,
time they
mhm,
go. Okay, the repeated readings. Okay.
right. And
Hmm.
so we have different little fluency
Are you
activities
getting
that
the
we do.
thunder and lightning there?
I am. I
Okay,
am.
because I'm like looking, and like my dog was losing her mind on my lap,
Yeah.
and that's why I like just went ahead and just like go get on the floor because she's like climbing all over me. I guess because she's hearing the thunder.
Hmm. It's actually calming down right here because it's been here now for about 10 minutes.
Oh,
So,
we I think it just started about like the last five. Yeah.
hmm.
Hmm. Okay, so I'm sorry. So working on them trying to do the decodable readers and go and getting faster with their sounds like that. What have been what have been the things that you've heard the most from parents who've seen their child send their child to you and they get the Orton-Gillingham instruction? What are you hearing from them? And also, are the parents getting trained at the same time so they can make sure they're reinforcing some of the things that you're teaching so the child can keep those practicing skills happening at home and mom and dad understand how to assist?
Yeah, sure. So, what the reports that we've getting got back so far from parents is just that child's confidence shooting up, and them talking to the parent more about the experiences that they're going back to the classroom and experiencing, where maybe they didn't feel as confident in the classroom, but now, especially our younger ones, they feel like they're getting ahead of the group at school because they've already been exposed to it here, and that's, so
Yeah.
they're excited about just having that, when they're able to participate at school, being better at doing it. Um, Now, we have not started to train parents, but that's something that I absolutely would love to do, and I have, planned to implement as one of our programs for next year. Parent coaching, parent workshops, and things like that. That's actually something that I've been planning for these last couple of weeks, starting this summer planning, because
Hmm.
we run our this is actually our first full year in operation.
Yeah,
And so, yeah,
congratulations.
thank you. And we're celebrating that. I know. It's exciting because it's been something that I want to do for the last 2.5 years, but something that I jumped out and started last year. So, um, but so this year coming up, our programs run from after school from pretty much the same time as the school system. That fall and
Right.
spring semester. We wanted to do a summer camp this summer, but we didn't get the enrollment numbers that we wanted, so we'll table that for next summer. But going into the second year, really want to focus on that parental piece, especially for those homeschool families. So for me, it's a passion to support homeschool families, because
Because you
I
were a homeschooling parent.
right, and so that is something that means a lot to me. So right now, I'm working on building a program that is going to specifically focus on autistic children, that are homeschooled, and parent coaching, and building a parent circle where we bring those parents in and teach them, you know, how to teach their child, um, phonics, that OG piece of it.
I
And I'm
love
saying,
that. And I love that I love that you are looking into, you're focused more on the kids who have autism because I think a lot of times, sometimes when we look at like neurodivergence and everything, sometimes like everybody's like all lumped together, but there may need to be some differences depending on what all is going on with that child, especially with the instruction. So I like that you have the individualized, was it a learning plan? The way you said, I want to make sure I know it's different than an
um,
IEP when you do it privately.
right. So yeah, because the IP is a legal document. So we're definitely
Hmm.
not doing that. But what we do build is individualized learning plans so that we know we're, setting goals for those students based on what the assessment revealed that they need. And so that we can close those gaps. So we build goals around what they need, and review those. We do progress monitoring, all those things. And if something is not working, or if we need to go back to the table with the parents, that's what we do, to make sure that we're getting that child what they need. If some kids are doing well and we can speed up, some kids are need a little bit more time, so we slow down, and you know so we do our individualized learning plans. But for the parent coaching piece up for the autistic program that I want to implement next year, it will be primarily a parent coaching program for parents that are have autistic learners that they're homeschooling, and they may not know where to start, and we want to help them get started, with the reading piece of it. And then for those parents who need a little bit more support, they can, we want to offer them, coaching, like a virtual coaching session once a month. And based on the needs and our capacity to serve those families, those kids that may require a little bit more, we would also want to offer them a session a demo session where the
Hmm.
parent and child can come into the center and we can, um,
Show them what it would look
show them
like if they were
what it would look
working with
like.
you,
Yep,
right? I
absolutely.
think that's great because a lot of parents don't, a lot of people who are outside of education, even some educators don't know about Orton-Gillingham. I know like we're hearing more about it, as you said, like as we're getting more into the science of reading and we're learning more about dyslexia, that like 20 to 30% of the population has that. So like
Yeah.
if, very feasibly in a classroom of 20 kids, you might have like four or more kids who may have this, and it may make it difficult for them to read. And we're looking into those things to try to make sure that they're able to learn and still being able, because it's the gateway to having a really positive future is to be able to read, is to be able to communicate. So I think that's
Right.
wonderful. My question about the homeschooling piece is kind of twofold. My first question is, with the homeschooling, do some of the parents have it set up like in their segment for their day? Like, let's say they have their schedule just like we have a schedule in public school. Do some of them have a schedule where you are the person that is providing the ELA instruction to that child during that segment throughout the day, or however many segments throughout the week? And are people allowed to, are you listed where people could use like Georgia Promise or Georgia Special Needs scholarships in order to pay for the tutoring if they had like a barrier financially in being able to afford it themselves?
So right now, this past year, it was a pilot program. I think we piloted the after school program and the homeschool program. The after school program took more shape and, worked out all the kinks. We had more kids enrolled in our after school program, and in our homeschool program this year, we actually had it as an in-center program, and we had two kids that were enrolled at one point, and they were we were not their primary reading instruction.
Gotcha.
They were enrolled in another program and they came to close those gaps. So
Gotcha.
they were, yeah, so that's how that was. And then um, just wanting to pull back and revamp that program so that we can, just to be completely transparent with you, um, it's something that I went back and forth about, but it's something that because the two students that one of them was autistic and one of them was just a struggling reader.
Hmm.
Um, and so going back to why I started this, what this was all about, I wanted to save that space for autism families. So
Hmm.
coming out with it, going back into the lab and saying, you know what, let's do that differently. I We work with all neurodivergent learners in our after school program, and in
Right.
our summer school program, we will definitely do the same. It's actually open. Our summer program will actually be open to all struggling readers. Um,
Great.
but I
When
wanted
does your summer program start? Like if somebody were interested, and do you still have spots?
Well, we right now we went ahead and just canceled it because we didn't get the enrollment numbers that we set, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't either overextend ourselves or under devalue the program. So we decided not to proceed with it for this year. We'll restart it next year, but it will run for 4 weeks, and it is open to all struggling readers. Should run for about 3 to 4 hours a day. So maybe from
Wow.
9 to 12 or 9 to 11 or something like that. Um, but it will be structured. A lot of summer programs are, you know, um, I don't want to say unstructured, but I do want to say that
Right.
it's more like, well, parents are working and they need a space to people to
Right.
keep their kids. And, they may come and they may learn and all that, and that's great. But our program is going to be to offer that intervention during the summer to close those gaps. So while we may have some down spaces where we're not quite as structured, the whole gist of
Right.
it will be structured. And that's something that I wanted to be very open about, because it's not going to be a space where kids are coming and not learning,
Right. Like it's not, we're not just coming to play, we're coming to do work to prep
Right,
us to have a more positive school year moving
right,
forward
right.
so we can
That
come out better than where we were.
Right. And so it is open to rising second graders up to fourth grade. That program is reserved for that group so they can, recover those skills that they need before going into middle school, and where it really, really gets hard. But I wanted to preserve a space just for those autism families, that honestly look like how I did.
Yeah.
And so this year, wanted to go back to the table, revamp that program, start out where we are just coaching those parents on that journey. I know so many parents, and I've personally, and I've talked to them just as strangers through, different being an educator and all those things, where, they know they got to pull their child out. The
Right.
support is not there, for whatever reason that it hasn't been there for them, um, or maybe it's just overwhelming their kid, and they just want to give them a space that feels more like bring them home. That program is going to be focused on preparing those kids for that, especially those second graders, right? Rising third graders, because they have that year where they're taking the milestones for the first time. Reading is going to get more serious. We'll break them down into those kids that need those foundational skills, comprehension skills, fluency skills. They'll be broken apart in skill-based groups, basically, and that's how that program will run. But for next year, we're going to implement this new parent coaching program for autism families that are homeschooling their children. That one's, they're all important to me, but that one is something that I'm really excited to get going, so that those parents won't, they have a space where they're not they're going to feel lost anyway. I mean, that's just what it is. But I want to at least offer them some hope, that there's someone in the community that has a space that, has felt the way you feel, and can help you get along on that journey. So that program will start as a coaching program, and
Yeah.
then based on our capacity, and love, want to be able to get grants in and different things where we can get the people in that we need to start bringing those kids into the center, maybe in that second year of that
I think that's
program.
important work because the parents don't know where to start.
No.
And I know you and I talked before. I'm not going to cry about this. We're not going to cry about it. I'm going to hold it in. I'm going to be a G. But because even for us, like we had a chit chat before, like we have educational backgrounds and we still had a process and are still
Yep.
going through a process of learning and learning how to best serve our kids and making sure that they're learning and keeping up with their peers academically. Then also you can
Mm-hmm.
add the social piece as well, like, keeping up socially. I don't even say keeping up, just progressing socially is what I would say.
Right.
Um, and understanding social cues and how to operate with other people. So I think that you doing that, offering those courses for parents is much needed. And I think that too, that's also offering like a safe space for parents that they might not
Mm-hmm.
have otherwise, where they can be with
Mm-hmm.
other parents who are having similar concerns because I just like even again, like when you and I met and we started talking, we all have very similar stories. We've
Mm-hmm.
had very similar experiences. Again, I'm not gonna cry. I don't know why I feel like I'm gonna cry today. We just have very similar experiences and stories, and it's always nice to realize that you're not going at it alone and that there are other exceptional parents with exceptional children who are trying to make sure their children are well educated and are prepped and ready and able to grow so they can continue to be successful as adults when they get to be adults, and that they can, work towards independence and work towards different things that, for where other parents may take for granted. We are not taking it for granted, and we are
Right.
very much aware that we have
Mm-hmm.
challenges that we need to help our children navigate through so that they can, have a more positive experience educationally and beyond. So I think that's
Yeah.
great. It sounds like almost like I want to drop in. I don't care to read. I want to drop in. Can I come?
Hopefully, you can come in and host some of our parent workshops. That would be my hope.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Yeah, so I do want to speak to the part where you spoke about the affordability of it all.
Yeah,
Right
like
now,
Georgia
um,
Promise or Georgia
yeah,
Special Needs, because I know they have like a list of different organizations sometimes that they do take tutoring and, services and everything like that into consideration as well.
so that's something that is in the works right now. It wasn't the focus of the first year, just trying to figure everything out. But that's something that we will be planning for, so that we can. Because our goal is access. We want to help as many parents
Yes.
as we can, and so however we need to do that, we want to be able to implement those things. So, and I met a lady. I can't remember her name, but I do believe that she is it Rising Scholars or Rising?
Yes, you met
Yeah.
Farron Slayton
Oh
Barkley
yeah.
of the Rising Scholars Collective. Hey, Farron.
I've met her at the Autism Awareness Festival that you guys did, and she shared with me there that um, you can go to like places like River Edge, and they have family funds and things like that. So
Hmm.
that is also something that we're looking into implementing for the summer program for next year. But beyond that point, our programs are because we do want to offer it, where it's accessible. They operate on a free to sliding scale basis already.
Right.
So depending on income, some of our parents come and get the intervention services for free, and some of them pay, but it's just based on their income.
Right.
Just because I mean, it's speaking from a parent myself. Your kid needs these things, and they're expensive.
Very.
Orton-Gillingham is very expensive, so um,
The training is expensive.
yes,
So
it
because
is.
the training is expensive, for the tutors have to charge, a
Yeah,
certain amount to accommodate for what that training costs and how
yeah,
individualized it is, because it is time consuming to do a plan for an individual child and to keep up with
right.
it and modify it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is that's absolutely true. And for me, I will say this, I was blessed to have my training paid for by the last school system that I worked for. And so
Mhm.
for me, it's important to give that blessing back in
Yes.
offering it as this free sliding scale basis. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, because you're right, it's very expensive. So that's something that,
Very and time consuming.
it
It,
is.
it was not light work because I've got, like I shared with you previously, I went through the coursework and got a certificate, and it's a lot. It's a lot
It
of
is.
work, a lot of, reading to do, a lot of learning to understand the brain more and to
Mm-hmm.
understand why you're doing it this way. They're
Mm-hmm.
not going to send you out with an Orton-Gillingham certificate and you don't understand the why behind it, and you're not, they
Mm-hmm.
make sure you buy in.
Yeah.
And I think, and then as you as the tutor, when you're moving forward with things like you're talking about, like working with the parents and working with the kids, you need to get them to buy in, because it is very different from what they see in traditional
Right.
literacy instruction.
And that is why I'm very, adamant about talking to my kids about using those multisensory tools. Like, they're gonna, take you exactly where you need to go. Just trust me. Trust me with
Yes.
that. Yeah. But
Hmm. Yeah. Well, we've been on for a little bit, but I want to ask one more question. If a parent is like on the fence about getting this tutoring and working with you and going to your center, what would you say you would think they would have when they come to you? Like, what are they getting when they come to Neurostars Phonics Factory? What are they going to receive in you and in this experience?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is my heart. My heart is in this work. Um, it means a lot to me to show up in this space. It really does. I can confidently sit here and say that I feel like it is my life's purpose. It is my purpose on this earth. So they would be getting someone who is putting everything that they have into the work, but more specifically, each individual child that walks in the store, whether I work with them directly or they work with someone else directly, everything about this space is intentional. It's intentional. And I want to be able to lift them up in spaces where I know some of them, if not all of them, experiencing probably the one of the most darkest seasons of their life, especially those autistic parents, And I mean, I'm pretty sure dyslexic parents. I never want to discredit because we all have our own stories. We all have our own
Absolutely.
journeys, and they're all um, meaningful and important, and as individuals to us, but we speak more passionately from what we've experienced. So
Yes.
I can speak and say that as a mom to a child with autism, who our journey was rough. There was
Mhm.
nothing easy about it. It just became easy, and he's 13. It's been easy now for about 3 years, about 3 years. And so I know every hurt, every tear, every, celebration of what most people feel like, well, why are you celebrating that? Because it's a lot. It means a lot. Um, all of those things, I know them from heart, from experience. So with those particular parents, they're getting that in me. They're getting a real person who's really lived this life and really wants to give back and say, you know what, our babies deserve this also. And then just
Absolutely.
as a teacher, educator, and just a person that loves kids. I love children. Like, they're my favorite people on this earth. I love them. So they're also getting someone who's just genuinely passionate about children. And so while, every day is not the same with a child, and I don't expect any child to be perfect, but I will always offer them my grace and my patience, and we'll start over every day. Every day
Yes.
we start over.
Well, I appreciate you and Autism on the Autism Mom. I genuinely enjoyed talking to you, working with you. I appreciate you supporting the Autism Awareness Fair we had in April, and I'm looking forward to working with you and hearing more about the great things that you're doing for the children in the community and helping to make our community more literate because that's what
Mhm.
we need. And I'm just so excited for you and your journey, and congratulations on 1 year of operation. I'm sure there'll be many more to come. It's not light work becoming an entrepreneur and starting a business, especially a business rooted in human services. And I'm just gracious to you. I'm so thankful for you and the work that you're doing in our community. So again, everybody, this is Miss Shecondria Duncan, the founder and operator of Neurostars Phonics Factory, and she is available here in Macon. So reach out to her if you know your child may need a little bit more help with reading, or even if you suspect they may have dyslexia or autism or something that is giving them a barrier to success in that classroom when it comes to reading. They might need a little bit more than what they're getting at school.
And can I share our website really quick?
Absolutely. You
So
share your
it's
website address, whatever you need to.
okay. We are www.neurostarsphonicsfactory.org. So everything that a parent would need to get in contact with us would be on that site, including our phone number. We do schedule our discovery sessions, absolutely free. If like you said, if you suspect anything going on with your kid, you can always schedule that, and it's like a 20-minute phone call where we talk about what that kid needs, what the parent wants for them, and just learning everything about the child, and if we're a good fit for that family, and if that child, our instruction is a good fit for that child. So that is our web address, but our phone number is 478-212-8621, and we are located right here in Macon, Georgia, downtown Macon, on Mulberry Street, not too far from the Bibb County Board of Education.
Awesome. Again, everybody, Miss Shecondria Duncan from Neurostars Phonics Factor, and we're so excited about the work she's doing in our community. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.